Have you ever wondered why certain things stick in your memory while others don't? Cognitive load theory would clearly explain why that happens. Welcome to this presentation on cognitive load theory. My name is Awele Nwemnwa, and I am your buddy in this learning process. By the end of this PowerPoint presentation, learners will be able to demonstrate understanding of key concepts of the theory by providing examples and discussing strategies for managing cognitive load in instructional design. We would look at the overview of cognitive load theory, definition of cognitive load theory, types of cognitive load, strategies to reduce cognitive load theory in practice in various settings. Let's dive right in. Cognitive load refers to the amount of information load our working memory can process at any given time. Cognitive load theory refers to the amount of mental effort required to process information load. It focuses on how the working memory processes information, how the cognitive load of learners affects their ability to process and retain information. It's the impact on learning and problem solving. It was developed by John Sweller in the 1980s and has since been widely applied in the field of education. Cognitive load theory is based on the model of human information processing illustrated on your screen. This model describes memory as having three main parts: sensory, working, and long-term. When you are taking information through your senses, like when you see, hear, taste, smell, or feel something, it goes to the sensory memory. From there, your brain quickly filters out irrelevant information, like most of what is going on around us. For instance, the sound in your room or the next room right now as you're watching this video is forgotten. If you are paying rapt attention to me, it doesn't get to the working memory for processing. According to cognitive load theory, short-term or working memory has a limited capacity and can only handle so much information effectively at one time. Age and development determine how much info the working memory can hold, hence the need to know your learners when planning instruction. Based on the age and developmental level of this learner, the working memory has a maximum duration of about 20 seconds, ability to hold or recall about 7 chunks of information, and with a maximum concurrent processing limit of 2 to 4 chunks of information. By processing activities, I mean organizing, contrasting, comparing, or problem solving. From there, your brain either decides to process this information or forget it. Not all information processed long enough, rehearsed, or important ends up in your long-term memory. If a person's working memory is overloaded, that person may not be able to process anything well, thus leading to poor understanding, retention, and learning. That is why certain things stick in your memory while others don't. The working memory part of your brain was overloaded and some relevant information was dropped and forgotten. The information that it decides to process is the ones repeated and rehearsed long enough, and it goes to your long-term memory where the information is stored in hierarchy as schemas. Schemas, even highly complex ones, count as one chunk of information in our working memory. Activating prior knowledge or schemas allows us to focus instruction at the right level, in the gap between what our learners know and what we need them to learn. Capacity here is unlimited and can be retrieved in schemas as can be seen in this diagram. The way the info is stored has a role to play in its retrieval. Have you ever had to sing a rhyme or poem to remember a piece of information? That's what I mean. Can you think of another example to explain this? You can pause and brainstorm. Intrinsic load is the inherent difficulty in processing information or task to be learned, regardless of how it is presented. Intrinsic load remains constant regardless of the influence of extraneous and Germani load. For example, the effort you need to learn the concept of cognitive load theory is what it is, regardless of how I or any person teaches it, is a load called intrinsic load. Extraneous load refers to the way information is presented and how easy or difficult it is for a given learner to process it. Extrinsic load will vary by person. Extraneous cognitive load is unnecessary information or activities, such as noise or non-germane activity or stimuli imposed by instructional materials or environment. They do not scaffold the learner to construct relevant and viable schema. Extraneous cognitive load is the load imposed by how I teach this concept. Germani load refers to the effort needed to use memory and intelligence to process information into schemas. Germane load is thus how we process new information into long-term memory. Germane cognitive load scaffolds the learner to construct viable and relevant schema. How can I avoid overloading my learners? Cognitive overload occurs when the combination of intrinsic, extraneous, and germane loads becomes overwhelming for the learner. Even the most intelligent person can only process so much information at once. When someone is overwhelmed, they may struggle to process new information or make appropriate decisions. They may fail at a task that should be manageable given their knowledge and experience. Cognitive overload can be addressed in a few different ways. First, ask questions of the learner to ascertain where their knowledge level is to ensure you are not teaching at an inappropriate level. Students have different learning styles and abilities, which can pose a challenge when implementing cognitive load theory. Educators need to consider these individual differences and adapt instructional strategies accordingly. Second, work to eliminate extraneous distractions, such as cell phones or other devices that may be overstimulating the learner. Websites that are difficult to navigate, or slides that are difficult to read, or with a lot on it like this. Third, try to focus the learner on one piece of information or task at a time. Consider the amount of time that you can give learners for the task. Being clear about how long something may take can help reduce the overload. Think of a time estimate for reading materials. Here are some strategies to using the cognitive load theory. If the problem space is too large, learners become overloaded and are unable to process and retain the information you are working to teach them. For example, chunking or breaking problems down into parts is easier for learners to process than trying to tackle a large, complex problem all at once. By organizing information into meaningful groups, it becomes easier for the audience to process and retain the information. Providing clear and concise instructions can help reduce cognitive load by eliminating confusion and reducing the amount of mental effort required to understand and follow the instructions. Use simple language and avoid unnecessary complexity. Multimedia design, incorporating multimedia elements such as images, videos, and interactive content can enhance understanding and engagement. Visuals can help convey information more efficiently and reduce the cognitive load associated with processing text-based information. Auditory and visual information have separate working channels that do not compete with one another. Presenting information in both forms expands the memory's ability to process the information for long-term storage and retention. Work to ensure that the information you present has both visual and auditory components. Cognitive load theory has a wide range of real-world applications, particularly in the fields of instructional design, multimedia learning, and user interface design. It can be applied in various educational and professional settings to optimize learning and improve user experience. Cognitive load theory can be used to design effective instructional materials and activities that minimize cognitive overload and promote effective learning. By understanding cognitive load, multimedia designers can create engaging and effective learning materials that optimize information processing and retention. Cognitive load theory can inform the design of user interfaces, ensuring that they are intuitive, easy to use, and minimize cognitive effort. High cognitive load can hinder learning and retention. It is important to manage cognitive load to optimize learning outcomes. Reduce extraneous load through effective instructional design. Foster or maximize germane load to promote learning. Recap of key points. Cognitive load theory is a framework that explains how the human brain processes and stores information. It emphasizes the importance of managing cognitive load for effective learning and problem solving. Cognitive load refers to the amount of mental effort required to process information. There are three types of cognitive load: intrinsic, extraneous, and germane. Intrinsic load is the inherent difficulty of the task. Extraneous load is caused by irrelevant information or poor instructional design, and germane load is the mental effort required for meaningful learning. Effective instructional design should aim to reduce extraneous load and promote germane load. Strategies such as chunking, scaffolding, and providing worked examples can help manage cognitive load and enhance learning. Cognitive load theory has implications for various fields, including education, training, and user interface. Thank you for watching. Hope I did not overload your working memory.